Hello everybody. This is our presentation of the Lake Nyos disaster for Earth System Science. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and paint the scene a little bit, give you a little bit of set and setting here. Where did this occur? Well, this occurred at Lake Nyos, which is a large freshwater lake that resides in this caldera in the northwest region of Cameroon. So when did this happen? It happened on August 21st in the year of 1986 at 10 p.m. And I personally believe that the outcome of this eruption, certainly the death toll, hinges on the time of the eruption. I personally think that if this happened at any other time, especially during the day, the outcome would have been completely different. So, how did this happen? Well, the exact mechanism is up for debate, but we know specifically what happened, and let's get into that. So, how did this happen? Let's go ahead and expand upon this a little bit. So, the base level how of the eruption is very clear. There was some sort of disturbance that caused a geyser of 1.6 million tons of CO2 to be ejected out of the center of this lake. And because CO2 is denser than air, it quickly fell to the surface along drainages, lower in elevation, until it hit populated areas. However, the mechanism behind this is the true geologic mystery. And it could have really been anything, any number of things, all happening at once, or one large thing. It could have been a landslide from inside of the lake. It could have been any other disturbance, a chemical disturbance, a lake water overturn, which is like your temperature change that occurs within the lake. Enough of that could have happened to emit CO2 and sort of serve as a tipping point. A volcanic split underneath the surface of the lake could have caused the gases to erupt from deep in the earth and extrude from the lake's surface. We don't exactly know. So the results of the eruption, the very mysterious and acute results of this eruption, was that over 1,700 people overnight had died, and estimated up to 6,000 head of cattle, along with countless birds and reptiles and other mammals and all sorts of wildlife that had been unlucky enough to be caught in this. However, 4 human survivors escaped by getting to higher elevation. Luckily, the density of the CO2 is heavy enough to provide a bit of that weakness that you can get around. In the following months, the economic and the spiritual turmoil were almost as bad, with the abandoned living space and the spike in the cattle prices. The local populace, which had already kind of feared the lake because of ancient tales and local superstition, had become rampant after this. So, what do? Well, you science it. The acute nature of this disaster led to a lot of fear, and fear drives science. So, a lot of science was put into this. And so in 2001, French scientists applied a very simple solution. Sometimes your best solution is the simplest, by effectively jamming a PVC pipe down to the bottom of the lake. And so when the CO2 would reach a certain level, it would off-gas. This off-gassing station is self-operating. Once the CO2 reaches a certain level, it pops out. And it's still in use to this day. And this helps to mitigate any sort of other eruptions. So the CO2 that escapes and extrudes from this station is at non-lethal levels. So a couple of curiosities and tales to kind of round off this quick presentation. The first signs that something had occurred was from different sources. You're in a first world country, okay? You're not going to get a lot of clear answer or a clear sequence of events as to what had happened. One of two possibilities exist as to who the first eyewitness accounts were. One, a man on a motorbike visiting the village happened upon a dead antelope and he thought himself lucky. So he continued on down the road and found an entire village of dead cattle and dead people. And the scariest thing about this is with CO2 asphyxiation, there is no struggle. There's no choking. There's no violent, seizures or any of that stuff going on. It's simply you go to sleep and you don't wake back up. Or two, the survivor, one of the survivors, by the name of Joseon Inkwan, was able to escape via a bicycle and report the disaster to a neighboring village. And so, following this event, the 4 survivors went to a local hospital, and because of the shaky nature of merely anecdotal evidence, they were not able to provide proficient medical attention to these survivors because, according to them, they thought it was sulfur burns. You're near a volcano, you exhibit these symptoms, there were a couple of sores on them, you automatically go, oh, it's sulfur, without really going through a bit of the process of what exactly had happened. And to conclude this, one of the most interesting parts of this is it is only one of 2 recorded limnic eruptions in history. There was another one that happened a couple of years later, and we have a really good habit now, once a limnic eruption happens, of mitigating future ones and getting rid of that danger. Once again, this is our Lake Nyos presentation for Earth System Science. Thank you.